A poor waitress slumped before the mafia boss. He caught her, saw the bruises, and asked, "Who did this to you?" She collapsed into the arms of the most dangerous man in the city, her bruises painting a story he refused to ignore. In that moment, between the clink of wine glasses and hushed conversations of the elite, a waitress and a crime lord collided, and neither would walk away unchanged. They said Luca Moretti didn't save people, he destroyed them. They said his hands had signed death warrants and his smile had bankrupted empires. They said he was carved from ice and rage, a man who traded in fear and spoke only the language of violence. But they didn't see what happened in that VIP room when Naomi Thompson's legs gave out and her world went black. They didn't see the way his fingers, those same hands that had allegedly ended lives, caught her with devastating gentleness. They didn't hear the deadly quiet of his voice when he asked, "Who did this to you?" like those 5 words could reshape reality itself. Some love stories begin with flowers and first dates. This one began with fingerprint bruises and a question that shattered the careful lies Naomi had built to survive. Because when a woman who's learned to make herself invisible catches the attention of a man who sees everything, when her monster walks through the door and his monster steps between them, that's when you discover the difference between the devil you know and the devil who might just save your life. The only question is, at what cost? If you've been hooked up to this moment, I need your help. I have a goal of reaching 1,000 subscribers within a few days from now. Hit the subscribe button and let us know where you're watching from. Your support helps us breathe life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, let's dive back into the story. Angelo's diner wore its age like a badge of honor, cracked vinyl booths, flickering neon signs, and the perpetual smell of burnt coffee mixed with grease. For Naomi Thompson, it was both prison and sanctuary. 12 hours into her shift, with 6 more stretching ahead like an endless tunnel, she moved through the motions with mechanical precision. Coffee, black. Pancakes, no butter. Her voice was automatic, her smile practiced. The trucker at table 7 didn't look up from his phone. He never did. None of them did. To the customers of Angelo's, she was part of the furniture, functional, forgettable, and easily replaced. Naomi's arms ached as she balanced another tray, the weight somehow heavier tonight. Or maybe she was just weaker. The long sleeves of her uniform clung to her skin despite the diner's inadequate air conditioning. August in Chicago was unforgiving, but not as unforgiving as the alternative, letting anyone see what lay beneath the fabric. The Bruises had their own calendar. Purple gave way to yellow, yellow faded to green, and just when she thought she might have a week of clear skin, Marcus would remind her why she could never leave. His hands were artists, really, they knew exactly where to paint pain without leaving visible masterpieces. Ribs, upper arms, the small of her back. Places where uniforms and excuses could hide the truth. "I'm clumsy," she'd said last week when Rosa, the cook, noticed her wincing while reaching for plates. "I walked into the corner of my dresser." Rosa had given her that look, the one that said, "I know you're lying, but I also know better than to push." That was the unspoken rule in their neighborhood. Survival meant minding your business. Everyone had their demons, pointing them out only made them hungrier. The bell above the diner door chimed, and Angelo himself emerged from the kitchen, his face unusually tense. Angelo Ricci was a stout man in his 60s with more hair sprouting from his ears than his head, but tonight he looked almost nervous. "Naomi." His voice was low, urgent. "VIP room. Table's been set for an hour. They just called, they're ready to order." She froze mid-step. The VIP room. That mysterious backspace that Angelo kept locked except for special guests. In 3 years of working here, she'd never been asked to serve back there. Angela, the senior waitress with the platinum blonde hair and practice charm, always took those tables. "Where's Angela?" "Called in sick." "You're up." He pressed a leather-bound menu into her hands. "Be professional. Be invisible. And for God's sake, don't ask questions." The menu was heavier than it should have been, the kind of weight that had nothing to do with paper and leather. Naomi's instincts screamed that something was wrong, but when had her instincts ever protected her? She'd ignored them when Marcus first showed his temper. She'd ignored them every time she went back to their apartment. She pushed through the kitchen, past Rose's worried glance, and approached the unmarked door at the back. Her hand trembled as she turned the knob. The VIP room was a different world, soft lighting, mahogany furniture, and the kind of quiet that money bought. 3 men sat at the main table, but her eyes were drawn to only one. He sat at the head of the table like he'd been born to it, his charcoal suit tailored to perfection, his dark hair swept back to reveal a face that could have been carved from marble. Luca Moretti. She'd heard the name whispered in the diner's kitchen, always with a mixture of fear and respect. The man who owned half the city and terrorized the other half. Naomi's training kicked in. She moved forward, menu extended, mouth opening to recite the specials. That's when the floor tilted. The edges of her vision blurred, her knees buckled, and the tray slipped from her nerveless fingers. She heard the crash of breaking glass from very far away, felt gravity claim her with cruel efficiency. But she never hit the ground. Strong hands caught her mid-fall, and suddenly she was staring up into eyes the color of espresso, dark, intense, and entirely focused on her. "Easy," Luca Moretti said, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her chest. "I've got you." What would you do if a stranger showed you more kindness in one moment than someone close to you had shown in years? Drop your thoughts below. Luca Moretti had seen a lot of things in his 38 years. He'd seen men beg for their lives with the eloquence of poets. He'd seen fortunes won and lost on the turn of a card. He'd seen blood on marble floors and tears on silk sheets. But he'd never seen eyes quite like Naomi Thompson's, brown and deep and drowning in something that looked like equal parts terror and relief. She was light in his arms, too light for someone who should have been solid with youth and health. Her uniform hung loose on her frame, and when he'd caught her, his hands had found sharp angles where there should have been curves. "Sir, I'm so sorry." She struggled to stand, and he let her, but kept one hand on her elbow. She swayed like a sapling in a strong wind. "Sit." It wasn't a request. He guided her into the chair beside his, ignoring the raised eyebrows of his associates. Dante, his second in command, knew better than to comment. Vincent, newer to the organization, looked confused but wisely kept his mouth shut. "I'm fine, really. I just need to." Naomi tried to stand again, and this time Luca placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Not rough, but immovable. "You'll sit until the room stops spinning." He snapped his fingers at Vincent. "Water. Now." It was then that he noticed her sleeve had ridden up during her fall. The bruises were impossible to miss, dark purple fingerprints wrapped around her forearm like a grotesque bracelet. His jaw tightened. Naomi followed his gaze and yanked her sleeve down with a speed that spoke of practice. Too much practice. I'm clumsy, she said quickly, the words tumbling out like a rehearsed script. I fell down my apartment stairs last week. Really should watch where I'm going. Luca had heard every lie in the book. He'd told most of them himself. But this one made something cold and sharp settle in his chest. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently pushed her sleeve back up. The bruises weren't from a fall. They were too precise, too deliberate. Someone had grabbed her. Hard. Multiple times. Who did this to you? His voice was soft, dangerous in its quietness. Naomi's eyes widened. No one. I told you, Naomi. He'd learned her name from the tag pinned crookedly to her uniform. I've broken enough bones to know the difference between an accident and intent. Someone put their hands on you. Who? She opened her mouth, and he could see the lie forming, see her brain scrambling for a story that would make him look away, make him stop caring. But something in his expression must have told her that lying would be pointless. It doesn't matter, she whispered instead. It's not your problem. I'm making it my problem. You don't even know me. I know enough. He released her arm carefully, conscious of not adding to her collection of bruises. I know you're working a double shift in a diner that should have been condemned 5 years ago. I know you're wearing long sleeves in August. And I know that whoever did this to you needs to learn some manners. Vincent returned with water, setting it down with trembling hands. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Naomi took the glass, her hands shaking so badly that water sloshed over the rim. Drink, Luca commanded gently. Then tell me his name. I can't. You can. You don't understand, Hill, she cut herself off, pressing her lips together so hard they turned white. Luca leaned back in his chair, studying her. She was beautiful in the way that broken things sometimes were, fragile but fighting, hurt but not yet defeated. Her dark skin was ashen with exhaustion, her natural hair pulled back in a bun that was coming undone. She looked like she'd been running for a very long time and had just realized she'd run out of places to go. Hill what? Luca prompted, his voice deceptively calm. Hurt you more? Naomi, look at your arms. Look at yourself. How much worse can it get? She laughed, a sound so bitter it could have curdled milk. You'd be surprised. The door to the VIP room burst open, and everything happened at once. A man stormed in, mid-30s, gym rat muscles straining against a too-tight shirt, face flushed with anger and something that might have been panic. His eyes locked on Naomi with the focus of a predator spotting wounded prey. Baby, there you are. His voice was too loud, too jovial, edged with barely controlled rage. You just left without telling me. You know how I worry. Naomi went rigid. The water glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor in a spray of glass and liquid. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, frozen, terrified, trapped. Luca didn't need to ask who this was. The way Naomi's whole body had gone into shutdown mode told him everything. This was the artist who'd painted those bruises. This was the man who'd taught her that love meant pain. He stood slowly, deliberately, placing himself between Naomi and the intruder. When he spoke, his voice could have frozen hell itself. This is a private dining room. You're trespassing. The man, Marcus, based on the name tag from the gym visible on his shirt, barely spared Luca a glance. His attention was fixed on Naomi like a laser. Private? My girlfriend's working. I'm just here to walk her home. Right, baby? The endearment was a threat wrapped in sugar coating. Actually, Luca said, his tone conversational but his eyes lethal, she told me you're her ex-boyfriend. Past tense. Finished. Done. Marcus's head snapped toward him, really seeing him for the first time. Luca watched the recognition dawn, the expensive suit, the way Dante and Vincent had moved to flank him, the authority that clung to him like cologne. Marcus was stupid, but apparently not completely brain-dead. Who the hell are you? Luca smiled. It was not a friendly expression. I'm the man standing between you and her. And I'm suggesting that you leave. Now. Behind him, Naomi made a small sound, half gasp, half sob. Luca didn't turn around, didn't take his eyes off Marcus for a second. Marcus took a step forward, puffing up his chest. You don't know what you're. He didn't get to finish. Luca moved with the fluid grace of someone who'd studied violence as both art and science. One moment Marcus was advancing, the next, he was face down on the floor with Luca's knee pressing between his shoulder blades and his arm twisted at an angle that promised pain if he so much as breathed wrong. I believe the lady said X, Luca said pleasantly, as if discussing the weather. Which means you have no business here. In my establishment. Near someone under my protection. Your protection? Naomi's voice was strangled, caught between horror and something that might have been hope. I don't even know you. Luca looked up at her then, still keeping Marcus pinned with practiced efficiency. You do now. Marcus thrashed beneath Luca's knee, spitting obscenities that would have made sailors blush. Luca applied just enough pressure to make breathing difficult but not impossible. He'd learned long ago that fear was more effective than pain, though he wasn't opposed to using both when necessary. Get off me, you psycho! I'll sue. I'll press charges. You can't just. I can, Luca interrupted calmly, and I am. Dante, escort this gentleman out. Make sure he understands that Angelo's diner is now off limits to him. Permanently. Dante moved forward, 6'3" of solid muscle and cold efficiency. He hauled Marcus to his feet with the ease of someone lifting a bag of groceries. Marcus tried to lunge toward Naomi one last time, but Dante's grip was iron. You'll regret this. Marcus screamed, his face purple with rage. Both of you. Naomi, you stupid. Whatever slur he was about to unleash died in his throat when Luca stood to his full height and took a single step forward. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. If you so much as breathe in her direction again, I will personally ensure you disappear. Not metaphorically. Not eventually. Immediately. Luca's smile was arctic. And unlike you, I don't leave bruises where people can see them. I leave nothing at all. Do we understand each other? Marcus paled. Whatever bravado he'd walked in with evaporated like steam. Dante dragged him toward the door, and Vincent followed, closing it behind them with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid shutting. Silence filled the VIP room, thick, heavy, suffocating. Naomi stood frozen by the chair, her chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow breaths. Her eyes were wide, glassy with unshed tears, and fixed on the door as if she expected Marcus to come crashing back through it. "He's gone," Luca said quietly. "He won't be back. You don't know that." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "You don't know him. He'll wait for me after my shift. He'll follow me home. She pressed a hand to her mouth, cutting off words that were starting to spiral into panic. Luca moved slowly, deliberately, the way one might approach a wounded animal. He retrieved his suit jacket from the back of his chair and held it out to her. "You're in shock. Sit down before you fall down again. I need to work. Angelo will fire me if Angelo works for me. You're not getting fired." He draped the jacket over her shoulders when she didn't take it. It swallowed her frame, expensive fabric warm from his body heat. "And you're not finishing your shift. Not tonight." Naomi looked up at him, confusion cutting through the fear. "What do you mean Angelo works for you? I own this building. And the one next to it. And about 40 others in a 6-block radius." Luca poured water into a clean glass from the bottle on the table. "Angelo pays rent to my organization. Which means, technically, you work for me too." "I don't understand." She took the water with trembling hands. "Why are you helping me? What do you want?" It was a fair question. In Luca's world, nothing came free. Every favor had a price, every kindness a hidden cost. He'd built his empire on that principle. But looking at this woman, this stranger who'd literally fallen into his life, he found he didn't have a good answer. "Maybe I don't like bullies," he said finally. "Maybe I'm tired of watching powerful men hurt powerless women." He sat down across from her, maintaining distance, keeping his posture open and non-threatening. "Or maybe I just think you deserve better than being someone's punching bag." Naomi stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. "You're a crime boss." "Allegedly. Everyone knows." Knowing and proving are different things. Luca leaned back, studying her. "But yes, I'm not a good man, Naomi. I've done things that would make your ex-boyfriend look like a choir boy. The difference is, I only hurt people who deserve it. And you," he paused, choosing his words carefully. "You don't deserve any of this." A single tear escaped down her cheek. She wiped it away angrily, as if crying was a weakness she couldn't afford. "What happens now?" Luca pulled a business card from his pocket, heavy cardstock, embossed lettering, a phone number and nothing else. He slid it across the table. "Now, you take this. You go home, not to wherever you've been staying with him, but somewhere safe. I'll have my people arrange it. Tomorrow, we will figure out the rest." "I can't afford." "You're not paying. Consider it an investment in your future." He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with practiced precision. "Oh, and Naomi? You're getting a raise. Minimum wage is an insult for what you put up with in this place." She looked down at the card, then backed up at him, searching his face for the catch. "Why?" "Because," Luca said, surprising himself with honesty, "someone should." The apartment Luca's people arranged wasn't an apartment, it was a fortress disguised as luxury. Naomi stood in the doorway of the high-rise building in Lincoln Park, watching as Vincent carried her 2 garbage bags of belongings like they were made of glass instead of everything she owned in the world. Top floor, Vincent said, pressing the elevator button. Penthouse level. The boss said you get 4C. This is insane, Naomi muttered for the 15th time since leaving the diner. She'd said it when a black SUV pulled up. Said it when Vincent opened the door like she was royalty. Said it when they drove past her neighborhood, the one where Marcus was probably pacing their old apartment, working himself into a rage. The elevator was the kind with mirrors and soft lighting that made even exhausted waitresses look almost human. Naomi caught her reflection and barely recognized herself. When had she become this woman? This hollow-eyed ghost wearing someone else's life? The fourth-floor hallway smelled like money, fresh paint, expensive carpet, and something floral she couldn't name. Vincent stopped at 4C and produced a key card. Boss had it activated an hour ago. The security code is your birthday. He said you'd know which numbers. Vincent paused, looking uncomfortable. He also said to tell you there's a phone inside. Programmed with his direct line. You need anything at all, you call. The door swung open to reveal what could only be described as a sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago skyline, now glittering with evening lights. The furniture was modern but comfortable, all clean lines and soft fabrics. The kitchen had granite countertops and appliances that probably cost more than she'd made in the past year. There's food in the fridge, Vincent continued, setting her bags down gently in the entryway. The boss ordered groceries to be delivered. Clothes too, they're in the bedroom. He guessed your size. At her startled look, he added quickly, professional guess. He's got 3 sisters. He's good at that stuff. Naomi walked slowly into the space, afraid that touching anything would break the spell. How much is the rent? You're not paying rent. Vincent. Boss's orders. He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable with her discomfort. Look, I know this seems weird. I get it. But Luca, Mr. Moretti, he's not like other guys in his position. When he says you're under his protection, he means it. No strings. No expectations. Everyone has expectations. Vincent smiled slightly. Yeah, well, his expectation is that you sleep safely tonight. That's it. That's the whole list. He headed for the door, then paused. Lock this behind me. Deadbolt, chain, everything. Building security knows your face now, nobody gets past the lobby without clearance. After he left, Naomi did exactly as instructed. She locked every lock, checked them twice, then stood in the middle of this impossible apartment and waited for the other shoe to drop. It didn't. She explored cautiously, the bedroom with its king-sized bed and blackout curtains, the bathroom with a tub deep enough to drown in, the closet where Vincent had apparently undersold the clothes situation. There were jeans in her size, shirts with tags still on, underwear still in packages, and 3 pairs of sneakers because someone, Luca, apparently didn't know which style she'd prefer. The phone sat on the kitchen counter, sleek and new. She picked it up, found only one number programmed into it, labeled simply LM. Her finger hovered over the call button. What would she even say? Thank you for rescuing me from my nightmare? Thank you for treating me like I matter? Thank you for being the first person in 3 years to ask, who did this, instead of looking away? The phone buzzed in her hand, making her jump. A text appeared. Eat something. Sleep. Tomorrow we will talk. You're safe now. L. Naomi read it 3 times, looking for the catch, the demand, the price tag hidden in the words. But there was nothing except what he'd written, a command to take care of herself from someone who seemed to care whether she did. She opened the refrigerator to find it stocked like someone had actually thought about what she might need: fresh fruit, sandwich ingredients, juice, milk, and on the top shelf, a slice of tiramisu in a clear container with a note, "Angelo sends his regards." Naomi sat on the kitchen floor, tiramisu in her lap, and cried. Not from fear or pain or exhaustion, though she felt all 3. She cried because for the first time in longer than she could remember, she was alone in a space where alone didn't mean vulnerable. She cried because she was safe. And she cried because she had no idea what happened next. Naomi woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. For 3 disorienting seconds, she didn't know where she was. Then it all came flooding back: the collapse, the bruises, Marcus's rage, Luca's cold efficiency, and this apartment that felt like stepping into someone else's dream. She'd slept in her clothes, too afraid to shower or change, as if being caught vulnerable in this stranger's generosity was somehow worse than being caught by Marcus. The bed had swallowed her whole, expensive sheets softer than anything she'd ever touched. She'd expected nightmares. Instead, she'd slept 9 hours straight, a personal record. Her phone, her real phone, the cracked one she'd retrieved from her bag, showed 17 missed calls from Marcus and a string of texts that devolved from pleading to threatening to downright unhinged. She blocked the number with shaking hands, then powered the phone off entirely. The new phone Luca had provided sat beside it, pristine and accusatory. She picked it up, scrolled to his number, and typed 3 different messages before deleting them all. What do you say to a mob boss who saves you? Thanks for the rescue seemed inadequate. What do you want in return seemed rude. Before she could overthink it further, the phone buzzed. Coffee's in the machine. Press the blue button. Meet me at Angelo's at noon. We need to talk. L. She stared at the message. Not a request, a summons. The same tone he'd used when ordering Marcus removed from the premises. Polite but immovable, like gravity. I don't work today, she typed back. I know. This isn't about work. It's about your future. Noon. Don't make me send Vincent. Despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the surreal nature of her new reality, Naomi smiled. There was something almost funny about being bossed around by a man who'd literally caught her mid-fall and decided she was his responsibility. The shower was a revelation. Water pressure that actually worked, temperature that stayed consistent, and enough hot water to wash away 3 years of Marco's fingerprints. She stood under the spray until her skin pruned, watching dirt and fear circle the drain. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly: jeans that hugged without restriction, a soft blue sweater that didn't require long sleeves to hide anything, and sneakers that felt like walking on clouds. She caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized herself. Without the armor of exhaustion and fear, she looked younger. Almost hopeful. Almost. The lobby of her new building was all marble and modern art. The doorman, a distinguished man in his 50s named Thomas, tipped his hat as she passed. Good morning, Ms. Thompson. Beautiful day. She'd lived in Chicago her whole life and never once had a doorman acknowledge her existence. Now she had one who knew her name. The walk to Angelo's took 20 minutes. She could have called a cab. Luca had left cash in an envelope marked emergencies and luxuries, but she needed to think. To process. To figure out what she'd say when he inevitably asked what came next. Angelo's looked different in daylight, smaller, shabbier, more honest about its wear and tear. Rosa spotted her through the window and burst out the door before Naomi reached the entrance. Mija. Rosa pulled her into a hug that smelled like cinnamon and cooking oil. Angelo told me what happened. That Pendejo Marcus, she spat the name like a curse. I should have said something. Should have done something. It's not your fault, Naomi said automatically, the same words she told herself 1,000 times. And Mr. Moretti? He really, Rosa lowered her voice. You know what they say about him. I know. But he helped you? He did. Rosa studied her face, then nodded slowly. Good. Sometimes the devil you don't know is better than the devil breaking your ribs. She squeezed Naomi's hands. He's in the VIP room. Been here since 11, drinking coffee and looking like he's planning someone's funeral. Probably Marcus's, Naomi thought, and found she didn't feel particularly bad about it. The VIP room's door was ajar. Through it, she could see Luca sitting in the same chair as yesterday, reading a newspaper with the focus of someone who actually cared about current events. He looked different in daylight, less intimidating, more human. The three-piece suit was gone, replaced by dark jeans and a black Henley that showed off arms clearly accustomed to more than signing checks. He looked up as she entered, and something flickered across his face. Relief? Satisfaction? Before she could identify it, his expression smoothed into professional neutrality. You came. You didn't give me much choice. There's always a choice, Naomi. You're here because you want answers. He folded the newspaper precisely. Sit. Let's talk about what happens next. Naomi sat, maintaining the distance of the table between them. Luca pushed a plate toward her, eggs, toast, bacon, and fresh fruit arranged like something from a restaurant menu instead of a diner kitchen. Rosa insisted, he said when she hesitated. Apparently you skip breakfast. I'm usually working breakfast. Not today. Eat. There was that tone again, command disguised as suggestion. Naomi picked up a fork more out of defiance than hunger, then discovered she was starving. The eggs were perfect. She hated that they were perfect. Luca watched her eat with the patience of someone accustomed to waiting. When she'd made it through half the plate, he spoke. I have a proposition for you. Of course you do. The words came out more bitter than she'd intended. Nothing's free, right? So what's the price? What do you want? His jaw tightened slightly. What I want is for you to listen before deciding I'm the villain in your story. Are you? Probably. But not in this. He leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. You need a job that pays better than this place. I need someone I can trust in a position that requires discretion. It's mutually beneficial. Naomi set down her fork. What kind of position? Manager of my legitimate business holdings. Restaurants, clubs, a few retail properties. Someone to keep the books clean, handle staff issues, make sure everything runs smoothly. He paused. It pays $75,000 a year, plus benefits and housing. The number hit her like a physical blow. 75,000. She currently made 23, before tips. That's insane. That's the market rate for someone managing multiple properties. I'm a waitress. I have a GED and 3 years of experience carrying plates. What makes you think I can manage anything? Luca's expression softened slightly. You've been managing to survive an abusive relationship while working doubles and paying rent on time. You handle difficult customers with grace. Rosa says you've been doing half of Angelo's inventory management for the past year without compensation because he's too lazy to do it himself. He tilted his head. You're competent, Naomi. You've just never had anyone recognize it. She wanted to argue, but every word he'd said was true. She had been managing Angelo's inventory. She did handle the difficult customers, the complaints, the chaos of Friday night rushes. She just never thought of it as skill, only survival. What's the catch? No catch. You work, you get paid. You do well, you get bonuses. You want to quit, you give 2 weeks' notice like any normal job. And the apartment? Yours as long as you're employed. If you leave, I'll give you 3 months to find something else. He met her eyes. I'm offering you a life, Naomi. A real one. With options. Have you ever been offered something too good to be true? What made you decide whether to take the leap? Let us know in the comments. She studied him, looking for the lie, the trap, the hidden clause that would turn this fairy tale into another nightmare. But Luca's expression remained steady, open, almost gentle. Why me? You could hire anyone. Someone with experience, credentials, someone who isn't, she gestured at herself. Someone who isn't broken. You're not broken. His voice was firm. You're damaged. There's a difference. Broken things can't be fixed. Damaged things just need time and the right conditions to heal. He stood, pulled an envelope from his jacket hanging on the chair. This contains employment paperwork, keys to an office downtown, and the contact information for my accountant. She'll train you. 3-month probation period, for both of us. If it doesn't work, we part ways, no hard feelings. Naomi took the envelope with trembling hands. It was heavy with possibility and terror in equal measure. I don't understand why you're doing this. Luca smiled, a real smile this time, not the dangerous one he'd used on Marcus. Maybe I'm tired of watching potential go to waste. Maybe I believe in second chances. Or, he buttoned his jacket. Maybe I just think the world owes you something better than what it's given you so far. He moved toward the door, then paused. Naomi? That man, Marcus? He filed a police report. Assault charges against me. Restraining order against you for emotional distress. Her blood ran cold. What? Already handled. He'll be withdrawing both by the end of business today. Turns out he has some outstanding warrants. Funny how these things work out. Luca's expression was pleasant, his tone conversational. He won't bother you again. That's a promise. Before she could respond, he was gone, leaving her alone with breakfast, an impossible job offer, and the growing suspicion that Luca Moretti was the most dangerous kind of man, the kind who kept his promises. 3 weeks into her new life, Naomi still woke up expecting it to dissolve like morning fog. But every morning, the apartment remained solid, the job remained real, and Luca Moretti remained the most confusing man she'd ever encountered. The work was challenging in ways waitressing had never been. Luca's accountant, Margaret, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who'd probably seen more criminal activity than most prosecutors, trained her with the patience of a saint and the standards of a drill sergeant. "These books need to be pristine," Margaret said, tapping the ledger with a manicured nail. "The IRS looks at Mr. Moretti's businesses the way hawks watch rabbits. One number out of place, one receipt missing, and they'll come down on us like the wrath of God." Naomi learned quickly. Inventory management, payroll, health code compliance, vendor negotiations, all the invisible architecture that kept restaurants from collapsing. She worked 10-hour days, but now they were in an office with ergonomic chairs and windows that opened. She had lunch breaks. She had weekends. She had a life. Luca checked in weekly, always professional, always distant. He'd appear in her office doorway without warning, scan the organized chaos of her desk, and ask pointed questions about profit margins and staff retention. He never asked about Marcus. Never mentioned the bruises that had faded to shadows on her skin. It was like that night in the VIP room had happened to different people. Until the day Marcus's sister showed up. Naomi was reviewing vendor contracts when the office door opened. Vanessa Reeves stood there, same angry eyes as her brother, same entitled posture, but wrapped in designer clothes and barely concealed contempt. "So you're the little charity case," Vanessa said, looking around the office like she'd found something distasteful on her shoe. "My brother's in the county lockup because of you." Naomi's hand tightened on her pen. "Your brother's in lockup because he had outstanding warrants. That's not my fault. He's facing 3 years. For some parking tickets and a bar fight from 2 years ago. They never would have looked at him twice if your sugar daddy hadn't made it his personal mission to." "He's not my sugar daddy." The words came out sharper than intended. "He's my employer. That's all." Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You actually believe that? Honey, men like Luca Moretti don't rescue broke waitresses out of the goodness of their hearts. They don't hand out apartments and jobs to strangers. Whatever you're giving him in return." "Ms. Reeves." Luca's voice cut through the office like a knife. He stood in the doorway, and the temperature dropped 20 degrees. "You're trespassing in my building, harassing my employee, and testing my patience. I suggest you leave before I decide to investigate whether you knew about your brother's activities." Vanessa paled but held her ground. "Marcus said she bewitched you. That you can't see what she really is, some gold digging." Out. One word, delivered with the kind of quiet menace that made grown men reconsider their life choices. "Now. Before I had security escort you out and ban you from every property I own in this city." She fled, heels clicking frantically down the hallway. The office fell silent except for Naomi's rapid breathing. She hadn't realized she was shaking until Luca crossed the room and placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "She's wrong," Naomi said, hating how her voice trembled. "I'm not, we're not." "I know." His hand remained on her shoulder, warm and solid. "And for what it's worth, you're not a charity case. You've increased efficiency in 3 of my restaurants by 20%, identified 2 vendors who were overcharging, and prevented a potential health code violation that would have cost me $50,000 in fines. You've earned every penny I'm paying you." She looked up at him, searching for the lie. But his dark eyes held only truth and something else, something that made her breath catch. "Why does it matter?" she whispered. "What do people think about us?" Luca's expression shifted, a crack in his professional facade. "Because the only opinion that matters is yours. And I need you to know that this," he gestured between them, "is real. The job, the apartment, the protection. No strings. No expectations. Everyone has expectations. Mine is that you're safe and thriving. That's the entire list." He stepped back, putting professional distance between them once more. "Marcus is being transferred to a facility downstairs. He'll serve his time there. He can't hurt you anymore." Naomi stood, facing him fully. "What did you do? What needed to be done?" "Nothing more." His phone buzzed and he checked it, frowning. "I have a meeting. Can you handle the Riverside restaurant's staffing issue?" Just like that, they were back to business. But something had shifted, some invisible wall had developed the smallest crack. "Luca," she called as he reached the door. "Thank you. For everything." He paused, looked back at her, and for just a moment, let her see the man beneath the armor. "You never have to thank me for doing the right thing, Naomi." The gala was Luca's idea, a fundraiser for a women's shelter, hosted at his upscale restaurant, Bellissimo. When he'd mentioned it during their weekly meeting, Naomi had assumed she'd be working behind the scenes, managing logistics and making sure everything ran smoothly. She hadn't expected him to invite her as his guest. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," she'd protested, staring at the embossed invitation he'd slid across her desk. "There's a dress in your apartment. Blue. Should fit." He'd said it casually, like buying dresses for employees was normal behavior. Margaret helped pick it out. Now, standing in front of her bathroom mirror, Naomi barely recognized herself. The dress was midnight blue silk, elegant without being revealing, fitting her like it had been made specifically for her body. Margaret had apparently also arranged for a stylist, a cheerful woman named Simone who'd shown up at 6 with a bag of makeup and firm opinions about Naomi's hair. "Mr. Moretti has excellent taste," Simone had said, working magic with curling iron and bobby pins. "This dress, this event, he's making a statement." "What kind of statement?" Simone had met her eyes in the mirror, smiling knowingly. "The kind that says you matter." The car Luca sent was ridiculous, a black Mercedes with a driver who held the door and called her ma'am. The drive to Bellissimo took 20 minutes, 20 minutes Naomi spent wondering what she was doing, why she'd agreed to this, and whether she could still back out. Then she saw Luca waiting at the entrance, and forgot how to breathe. He wore a tuxedo like he'd been born in one, classic black, perfectly tailored, making him look less like a crime boss and more like old Hollywood royalty. When he saw her emerge from the car, something flickered across his face, surprise, appreciation, something deeper that he quickly masked. "You look," he cleared his throat. "The dress works." "Does the dress work?" Despite her nerves, Naomi laughed. "That's the best you've got? If I said what I actually thought, we'd never make it inside." He offered his arm, formal and old-fashioned. "Shall we?" The restaurant had been transformed. Crystal chandeliers, white linens, flowers that probably cost more than her old monthly rent. Chicago's elite mingled with champagne glasses and practiced smiles, politicians, business owners, society wives who lunched and charitable endeavors. And they all seemed to know Luca Moretti. Didn't think you'd actually show. A silver-haired man in an expensive suit clapped Luca on the shoulder. Usually you just send a check and call it philanthropy. I'm expanding my horizons, Anderson. Luca's hand settled on the small of Naomi's back, proprietary but gentle. This is Naomi Thompson. She manages several of my properties. Naomi, this is Alderman Anderson. He's never met a camera he didn't like. Anderson laughed, but his eyes assessed Naomi with practiced calculation. Thompson? Any relation to the Thompsons on the North Shore? No, Naomi said smoothly, refusing to be intimidated. Just the Thompsons who work for a living. Luca's hand pressed slightly, approval? Warning? Before she could decide, they were swept into a tide of introductions. Restaurant owners who owed Luca favors. Society women who flirted shamelessly while their husbands pretended not to notice. Businessmen who spoke in careful code about opportunities and mutually beneficial arrangements. Through it all, Luca remained at her side, a steady presence in a sea of sharks. You're good at this, she murmured during a rare moment of privacy. Socializing. Acting like you're one of them. I am one of them. The only difference is, I'm honest about what I am. He snagged 2 champagne flutes from a passing waiter, handed her one. They deal with contracts and loopholes. I'm just more direct. Is that what you tell yourself? No. That's what I tell them. His smile was sharp. What I tell myself is more complicated. Before Naomi could ask what he meant, a woman's voice cut through the ambient chatter, sharp, familiar, and filled with venom. Well, well. The waitress cleans up nicely. Naomi turned to find herself face to face with Vanessa Reeves, this time accompanied by 3 women who looked like they'd stepped out of a luxury catalog. Vanessa's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Vanessa. I thought security had your name flagged. Luca's voice could have frozen fire. Oh, I'm here as Amanda Hartwell's guest. Vanessa gestured to a blonde beside her. We were just discussing your interesting choice of companion. Everyone's curious about the woman who caught the great Luca Moretti's attention. Tell us, Naomi, how does one go from serving coffee to wearing Valentino? The question hung in the air like a thrown knife. Around them, conversations died as people turned to watch the spectacle. Naomi felt every eye in the room locked onto her, felt the judgment, the assumptions, the barely concealed contempt of people who'd been born into the life she was only pretending to inhabit. Her old instinct was to shrink, to apologize, to make herself smaller. But she'd spent 3 years making herself small for Marcus. She was done. The same way anyone advances in life, Vanessa. Naomi's voice was steady, clear, carrying across the suddenly quiet room. Through hard work, competence, and having an employer who values ability over pedigree. She smiled sweetly. Though I suppose that's a foreign concept when your family's greatest achievement is producing sons who beat women and daughters who enable them. Vanessa's face went scarlet. You bitch. That's enough. Luca stepped forward, placing himself between them. But when he spoke, he wasn't looking at Vanessa. He was looking at Naomi, and his expression held something new, pride, fierce and undeniable. Security will see you out, Ms. Reeves. And this time, the ban is permanent. As Vanessa was escorted away, sputtering threats and curses, the crowd slowly resumed their conversations. But Naomi could feel the shift, the curiosity, the speculation, the story being written in real time about the mob boss and his mysterious companion. Luca took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Dance with me." "I don't know how." "Then I'll teach you. Right now. In front of everyone." His eyes held a question, a choice. "Unless you'd rather leave?" Naomi looked at their joined hands, at his face, at the room full of people who'd already decided who she was. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 weeks ago, terrified, broken, convinced she deserved nothing better than Marcus's fists. That woman was gone. "Teach me," she said. And as Luca led her onto the dance floor, one hand at her waist and the other still holding hers, Naomi realized something terrifying: she was falling for him. For this complicated, dangerous, impossibly kind man who'd caught her when she fell and refused to let her drop. When someone shows you kindness you've never experienced before, how do you know if what you feel is real or just gratitude? Share your thoughts below. The music swelled, and they moved together like they'd been doing this for years instead of seconds. Around them, the world faded, the judging eyes, the whispered speculation, everything except the warmth of his hand and the intensity of his gaze. "Naomi," Luca said softly, so only she could hear. "I need to tell you something." Her heart stuttered. "What?" "This, tonight, the dress, bringing you here, it wasn't just about the gala." He pulled her slightly closer, breaking about 15 rules of proper ballroom etiquette. "I'm tired of pretending this is just business between us." "Luca. Let me finish. You work for me, which makes this complicated. But I can transfer your position to Margaret, make sure there's no conflict of interest. I can do this the right way, the proper way. But first, I need to know." He paused, and for the first time since she'd met him, Luca Moretti looked uncertain. "Do you feel it too? This thing between us?" The honest answer was yes. The safe answer was no. The smart answer was to walk away from the mob boss with the gentle hands and dangerous smile before she got in too deep. But Naomi had spent 3 years choosing safety over honesty, and looked where it had gotten her. "Yes," she whispered. "I feel it. And it terrifies me." "Good." His smile was soft, real, devastating. "It terrifies me too." He kissed her there, on the dance floor, in front of Chicago's elite and his enemies and anyone who'd ever underestimated either of them. It was gentle and fierce and tasted like champagne and possibility. And for the first time in her life, Naomi Thompson believed in happy endings. 6 months later, Naomi stood in the same VIP room where her life had changed, watching the morning sun paint golden stripes across the mahogany table. Angelo's diner hummed with breakfast rush chaos beyond the door, but here, everything was quiet. Peaceful. She'd come full circle, but nothing was the same. The bruises had faded completely, replaced by confidence that sat comfortable in her bones. The apartment had become home. The job had evolved into a career. She now managed 8 properties and had hired 2 assistants of her own. Margaret had retired last month, handing over the books with a rare smile and the words, "You've exceeded every expectation, Mija." And Luca had become the most unexpected gift of all. Their relationship had been the subject of endless speculation. The society pages called her a mystery woman. Marcus's family tried twice more to cause trouble before giving up. Even Luca's associates had been skeptical at first, until they saw how she challenged him, grounded him, and made him laugh in the middle of serious business discussions. "You make him human," Dante had told her once. "That's either the best thing that could happen to him, or the most dangerous. Haven't decided which yet." The door opened and Rosa bustled in, carrying a tray with 2 coffees and something wrapped in a white cloth. "He's parking. Said to tell you he'll be up in 5 minutes. She set the tray down, then pulled Naomi into a fierce hug. "I'm so proud of you, Mija. Look at you now." "I'm still the same person, Rosa." "No. You're who you were always meant to be. There's a difference." Rosa patted her cheek. "That man loves you, you know. I really love you. The kind that would burn down the world to keep you safe. That's what scares me sometimes. Love should scare you a little. Means it's real." Rosa headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Mija? Whatever he's about to ask you, say yes. Trust me on this." Before Naomi could ask what she meant, Rosa was gone, leaving her alone with coffee and mounting curiosity. What was Luca planning? He'd been acting strange all week, secretive phone calls, mysterious smiles, that particular brand of nervous energy he usually reserved for major business deals. The door opened again. Luca walked in wearing jeans and a leather jacket, looking more like a dangerous stranger than the man who'd held her through nightmares and taught her that love didn't have to hurt. He carried a folder, the kind he used for contracts and important documents. "Morning, beautiful." He kissed her softly, familiarly, like they'd been doing this for decades instead of months. "Sleep okay? Would have slept better if you'd told me why we're meeting at Angelo's at 8 in the morning." She gestured at the folder. "What's all this?" Luca sat down, suddenly serious. "I need to tell you something. Several things, actually. And I need you to hear all of it before you respond." Her stomach tightened. "That sounds ominous." "It's not. I hope it's not." He opened the folder, pulled out papers. "First, I'm transferring ownership of 3 properties to you. Legitimate, fully documented, no strings attached. They're profitable, well-managed, and they're yours whether you stay with me or not." "Luca. Let me finish." He pulled out more papers. "Second, I've been working with the FBI for 2 years. Selected cooperation, limited scope, targeting only the violent elements in the organization. I'm dismantling everything illegal, transitioning to completely legitimate businesses within 18 months. Naomi stared at him. "You are, what?" "I'm getting out. Life, the reputation, all of it. Because I want a future, Naomi. A real one. With you. But I won't ask you to build that future with a man who's 1 arrest away from prison. You're serious. Dead serious. I met someone, actually, who made me want to be better than what I was. Than what I am." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I've spent my whole life being Luca Moretti, the dangerous man everyone fears. But when I'm with you, I'm just Luca. And I like that version of myself better." Tears pricked Naomi's eyes. "That's the most romantic and terrifying thing anyone's ever said to me." "I'm not done." He stood, came around the table, and, impossibly, wonderfully, dropped to one knee. The folder fell open, revealing not more documents but a small velvet box. Naomi Thompson, you walked into my life broken and brave, and somehow managed to fix parts of me I didn't know were damaged. You challenge me, ground me, and make me believe I can be more than my worst choices. He opened the box. The ring inside caught the morning light, a simple diamond, elegant and understated, exactly her style. I'm not asking you to marry a mob boss. I'm asking you to marry the man I'm becoming, the man you've helped me believe I can be. Will you? Naomi looked at him, this complicated, dangerous, impossibly gentle man who'd caught her when she fell and refused to let go. She thought about the woman she'd been, the woman she was now, and the woman she could become with him beside her. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto her finger, stood, and kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying, Luca pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, he said. I should have said it sooner, but I was scared. Of what? That you'd think it was too fast. Too intense. That I was just another man trying to control you. Luca. She cupped his face in her hands. You gave me freedom, not control. You gave me choices when I had none. That's not possession, that's love. And I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. Good. We'll be terrified together. He grinned, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. Fair warning, my mother's going to lose her mind when she meets you. In a good way. She's been waiting 38 years for me to bring someone home. Your mother doesn't know about me? She knows everything about you. I just haven't let them meet yet because once the Moretti family gets their hands on you, I'll never get you back. He kissed her again, softer this time. Ready to start the rest of our lives? Naomi looked at the ring on her finger, at the man who'd saved her in every way that mattered, at the morning sun streaming through windows that had once witnessed her collapse and now witnessed her joy. I've been ready since the moment you caught me, she said. Outside the VIP room, Angelo's diner continued its morning chaos, orders shouted, dishes clattering, coffee brewing. But inside, in the space where a waitress had once fallen and a mob boss had caught her, two people stood together, building something neither had expected to find, a love that didn't hurt, a future that didn't scare them, and a second chance at the lives they'd always deserved. What would you risk for a love that heals instead of harms? Drop a comment and let us know your thoughts. Sometimes salvation arrived in the most unexpected forms, wearing expensive suits and carrying the weight of a dangerous reputation. Sometimes the person who caught you was exactly the person you'd been falling toward all along. And sometimes, the best love stories began with the simplest question, who did this to you? Followed by the most powerful promise, never again. The end. If you enjoyed the story, do well to drop a comment and let us know how you feel about the story, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated to every story we share.